This is Cracking the Engagement Puzzle, the Taster Edition. I'm David Papa, and it says Leadership Expert, but I don't, that's a scary title because leadership is changing very fast. And as the world changes, as people, what they demand from work, leadership needs to adapt. So I'm less of an expert and more of a guide, and I'm going to share with you today what I think really makes a difference in leadership based on all the executives I've worked with and the people I coach and the work I've been doing over the years. And if you're interested in, this is designed to push leadership a little bit into where I believe it really needs to go to match what's happening in the world and the economy and what people really want and need. So if that excites you, then you're in the right place. If that doesn't excite you, well, by the end, you'll be excited. So stay tuned. This is We Are Think Productive. Most of you know who we are already, otherwise you wouldn't be here, but we are helping you reimagine work. We are rethinking the way work can happen for better, healthier, happier work environments and better, healthier, happier companies. And we have a whole host of offers that can help you do this. And this is one of them, cracking the engagement puzzle. So you can go to the website if you want to find out more, and we'll share a little bit more at the end about some other opportunities we have coming up for you that are free sessions like this one. So, rules of the road, there's a chat. You can chat in it. Y'all are doing it already. I'm seeing it great. I'm seeing Nottingham, Portsmouth, Vienna, Austria. Oh, yeah, not too far from me. I'm in Czech Republic. Hello from Bath. Oh, I love Bath. Great spot. Brighton. Hello, London. Yes, this is being recorded. Thank you for the question, Elena. And so you don't have to take copious notes throughout the whole thing. This is being recorded, so if you want to catch up later, that would be great. It's up to you. Let's just have the last note I got here is from Reading. Awesome. There's like there's a there's a railroad there if you're playing Monopoly. Cool. So why are we still talking about engagement? That's how we're going to start this presentation. But first, maybe actually I'm going to stop the share and we're going to do so. Oh, there's a lot of people without cameras on. You don't need to put your camera on now, but I'm going to put you in small groups in a minute. So D, we can fire up those groups now, please. Five to a group. And we're going to get this meeting started with a different type of experience than a typical, lecture style. And there's a reason for this. There's science behind this, but I want to give you something different to start out. So first, I need just two volunteers. I need just two volunteers. You can just raise your hand. We're gonna do a little thing for the group here, and then you're gonna we got an Emma and a Marie Hernandez. Thank you so much, Emma. I'm gonna spotlight Emma for everybody. I'm gonna spotlight Marie for everybody, and so you can see them. And I'm gonna spotlight myself for everybody, which seems very narcissistic, but you can just so you can see me. Okay, great. So what we're gonna do, Emma and Marie, we're gonna be playing sound ball together. So you want to unmute yourself. All right. So how it's gonna work is I'm gonna make a noise and I'm gonna throw a ball to one of you and I'm gonna say your name when I throw it to you. And then you're gonna catch it and make a noise and throw it to another person. And then we're gonna just make sure all three of us catch it, get thrown and catch two. Yeah. So this is a demonstration, everybody, of what you're going to be doing in about 30 seconds with your group, because we're going to be using a small groups in the session today. So we want you to get to know each other a little bit. Here's how it starts. So ready? Okay. Marie.
Boom!
Perfect. Now,
Emma.
Ah, Marie.
Boom! David.
That's it. Okay, that's how you're gonna start. You got a minute to do that with your groups. Thank you very much to Marie and Emma. Give them a round of applause. Give them a round of applause. Thank you for volunteering. So we're gonna put you in groups. You're gonna do that with your groups. Play sound ball, learn each other's names, make some noises, and we'll be back. And there's a reason for this. It's science. I'm gonna explain it later. We'll be back in literally a minute. You don't have much time for this. Groups activate.
David, there's a few people I'm admitting now from the waiting room. So I will pop them in a group. But just while I do that, you might want to explain to them what they're doing.
That's okay. We can, there's some people not jumping in. That's okay. Yeah, hello, welcome. Those of you who are not in a group yet, they're just entering. We're doing a fun emotional exercise because, with small groups, because that is part of the nature of what we're trying to create today. You'll understand more of that in a little bit. And if you want to jump in the group, if you want to jump in the group, there might be enough time for you, but probably not. It's been almost a minute, so we got to jump it back. Now it looks like we have a countdown down timer, D. Is this whole thing gonna literally close in 28 minutes? Or is that the groups? Is that the group timer?
No, you're fine.
All right, cool. Oh, all these people jumping in. Okay, let's bring them all back. That's fine. I'll explain the whole thing when we get back.
Okay. Breakout rooms are closing.
Okay, cool. I gotta remove my spotlight, maybe.
Just to say, we only had 2 people in us. We had an excellent game, but it didn't last for too long. So it's
Totally fine. We also had the 50-second breakout window. I don't know if we can force close them, but some people will be returning now. Totally fine, however many you have in your group. Man, a lot of people still jumping in here. That's great. Are they closed yet? Okay, still people in the rooms. They'll be closed in 10 seconds. Just hang with us. Does anybody want to take a guess while we're waiting while we did that?
just to break down people's barriers to speaking. Sometimes I think when you're in these kind of environments, people have this tendency to not talk or not engage. Well, clues in their word there, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, good pun. That's definitely part of it. We want to break down some barriers to get people talking to each other. Yes. Yeah, great. Okay, is everybody back? Looks like everybody's returning. Breakout room's closing. Okay, thank you so much for doing that and participating in that. Now, what did that feel like? I'm gonna ask y'all to mute. I'm here because I'm just hearing some typing, but it's okay. If I see you, I'll make some sound. I'm gonna mute you. Sorry. So
You muted yourself. Can't hear you.
I muted myself. Classic. So thank you for telling me. So how did that feel? You can just self-reflect, right now. Did I feel weird, awkward? Was it fun? Not how you normally start a meeting, right? But whatever you felt, I just want to point out to you that you felt something. You had an emotional experience happening in your body. And that is extremely important for what we're going to do today. All right? So we're going to dive in our groups a little bit more as we go through. But just remember, it wasn't a coincidence that we wanted to start out with an emotional experience. You'll see why. So I'm going to start with the slides again, and we'll get back to cracking the engagement puzzle. So why are we still talking about engagement? Shouldn't we be done with this by now? 10 years of knowing about engagement since Gallup started its polls, since we started getting data about engagement. Why are we still talking about it? Well, in 2024, the global employee engagement fell again. I don't know if I'm still hovering. Am I still hovering? Okay, I'm still hovering in front of the slides. Hello. This was a shock because there are so many engagement interventions happening. There are so many people out there that know about engagement. Why did it fall? And not only did it fall, but the cost of engagement is getting bigger and bigger. In 2024, it was 438 billion in lost productivity. Now that might be what does that number really mean? I mean, it's such a huge number, but some of that number is on your team. Some of that number might be you in your work. It might be affecting how much you get paid. It might be affecting how many days off you can take. It might be affecting how much progress you feel at work because things are slower with low engagement, because there's less trust with low engagement, because work is harder with low engagement. It's making your job worse. this engagement problem. And we're trying to, so this number is just a reminder, we're all a part of this 438 billion. What are we going to do about it? We'll find out more. Now, the primary cause in the drop of engagement, this is pretty interesting. In 2024, the primary cause in the drop of engagement was manager engagement. It dropped a whole 3 points from the previous year. It might seem like a lot, but may or may not seem like a lot to you. But if you know the Gallup numbers, that's quite a bit. That's a big drop. And it turns out that managers are feeling more harried and less supported than ever before. Managers used to be some of the most engaged people in a company. They had responsibility, they had ownership. Well, when that starts dropping, it affects everything going on in a company. What percentage of your team, I mean, maybe somebody wants to chat this. I can just, let me see if I can like get the chat, make sure I have the chat window open. Maybe somebody wants to chat this. What percentage of a team do you think is the percentage of a team's engagement that is controlled by the manager, or controlled or influenced by the manager? What percent of a team's engagement is kind of the result of the manager? So we got a 90 from Emma. I like that. You believe in management. You believe in leaders. 80, 82%, Harry, 80, 70, 70, 70, 80, 70. 75, 35 from Will, 30, 25, 25, 80. Hey, thank you so much for your guesses. Thank you so much for your chat. Some of you nailed it. According to Gallup, the number is 70%. 70% of a team's engagement comes from their managers. So when managers lose their engagement, it's going to affect everybody's engagement, and it's going to affect the entire work environment. This is something, I mean, we want to address as quickly as possible. As you probably all know, there are 3 tiers of engagement according to Gallup. There's the highly engaged folks. This is roughly 24% of a company. So if this is 100, there's 100 quote unquote people here in this graphic. So we're just going to visually show you what that looks like. 21% of the company, about 1 in 5 people, are highly engaged. These are the people giving their best, bringing their most creative ideas. These are the people who are positive and pumping up everybody else. These are the people who are the leaders on teams that are making the work fun, collaborative, and creative, and bringing innovations. So these are who we want to be. These are who we want to work with. Now, and it's only 1 in 5 people in an average company. Then we got 62% of people who are not engaged. These are the people who are kind of quiet quitting. These are the people who are doing basically the minimum. They are just going to work, showing up, trying to get through, and going home, and they don't want to do any more. They don't feel particularly connected to what the company is doing. They don't feel particularly connected to their team members. It's just a job, and that can be okay. I mean, I'm not going to be one who stands here and says everybody needs to love their work. Everybody needs to be at a place where they feel like their purpose is being activated. You know, I'm not going to sit here and make rules for people. But the thing is that they don't feel good about their day-to-day. And people working with them don't feel good about their day-to-day. And so this doesn't help anybody to let the situation continue, or if you're one of these people, stay in that situation. And then of course there's the actively disengaged. This is almost 1 in 5, slightly less based on the latest numbers. These are UK numbers, by the way. So these are people who are actively resisting what the company is doing. These are people who are blocking projects, actively resisting collaboration. You know, these are people who have lots of absenteeism typically, and not only do they not care, but they're kind of just like a no as much as possible. And if they're not an overt no, they're like a quiet no, and they're making things much harder for everybody. So now that, can we make this more meaningful? Well, it turns out there's some information from McLean and Company in 2017 that said 1 disengaged person costs 34% of their salary to the company every year in the form of lost productivity, lost clients, slowed projects, missed opportunities. So if you have a 1 disengaged person in your company earning £42,000 a year, which is apparently the average white collar salary in London, then that person is costing the organization over £14,000 extra a year in terms of those lost productivity metrics. So use this to build the case for changing engagement in your companies. I mean, if you have 100 people, right, and you got 17 of them that are actively disengaged, that's 17 of them costing 34% of their salary to the company. Okay. Now, if you add to that idea that some of them are going to leave the company because they're really disengaged, and now there's turnover costs associated as well. You got to replace them, all the time missed when they leave, all the cost of finding a new person, the cost of ramping up a new person, all that stuff. You're adding costs. And so now, this 17 disengaged people in a company of 100 is costing over 400,000 pounds a year. Now multiply that 100 by however many people in your company, and you're looking at gigantic costs every year in disengagement. Look at gigantic costs. So again, these are costs happening on your team. These are ways you're having to do more work. If you're a leader, these are headaches that you have to solve as a leader through this disengagement. It's making everybody's job harder, and it's making businesses worse. So you've probably seen these stats as well, that organizations with high engagement outperform low engagement organizations in several metrics. These metrics make a ton of difference, especially as you ramp up the number of people in a company. And in the happiness advantage, where they studied not only engagement, but happiness at work, which we can maybe some subtle differences, but we're going to treat them almost like they're the same thing. The happiest employees are 31% more productive. The happiest employees sell 37% more. So you can imagine if you have a handful of just take a handful of people and take them from being not really engaged to even more engaged, you're going to increase sales. You're going to increase productivity. You're going to increase everybody's enjoyment at the job. This is why companies with highly engaged employees outperform their competitors by huge factors. Now, this particular stat is based on earnings per share. So this is kind of like more public companies with shares, where we can measure this kind of thing. But the profitability of engaged companies is through the roof compared to disengaged companies. Now, if you want to build the case at your company, whether you have shares or not in your company, for what engagement is going to do for us, well, check out this information from Aon Hewitt in 2015, that just a 5% increase in employee engagement can lead to a 3% increase in revenue. So if I was going to create an engagement program for a company, like a full complete engagement program, I would use this as a baseline. Like, what if we could increase 3% in revenue just by a 5% increase in employee engagement? That means if you have 100 people, if you have 100 people, you just need to take 5 of those not engaged people and move them to engaged. Just 5 of them. Boom. And if you do that for every 100 people in your company, you're going to hit a 3% increase in the organization's revenue. That's extremely exciting. And someone's writing in the chat, so if you're not engaging your employees, you're directly impacting profitability. Yes, engagement is money. This is what I just wish more leaders saw more clearly. Engagement is money. A lot of them know about, what about not-for-profits? Well, not-for-profits are still trying to have impact. They're still trying to raise money. They still have operating costs. Everything related to performance in your company is going to get better when you have higher engagement scores. Thank you for that question. Also, you're going to have better work environment. People are going to like to come to it more. And in a not-for-profit, where really caring about what you're doing, it goes a long way into extending the impact of the organization. Engagement is going to be a big factor in that. Low power, better plug in. Okay. So this is why companies that invest in the employee experience are 4 times more profitable than companies that don't. Again, stats you can use to build the case for engagement in your company. But, is this why we're here? Is this the only reason we're here? Because I want you to wake up in the morning and be like, I can raise my company's profitability. I want you to be, jumping out of bed. Oh, shit, I'm going to make my company more profitable today. Like, is that why we're here to doing this talk? No, it's not the only reason. It's because we're spending the majority of our waking hours at work. Okay, for most of us, it's still the case. We're spending more time at work than we are with our families. And in the course of, over a given week, right? A normal week. So if we are not feeling great about that, that's creating a ripple effect in our entire life. That's creating a ripple effect all around us. And if we're feeling great about that work, it's also creating a ripple effect all around us. What I'm talking about is that happier work means happier people, means a better world. Engagement is about creating a better world. And in fact, if your company doesn't change its products at all, if your company doesn't change its mission at all, Okay, your company could be selling, sugar water, just as an example, like just some sugary drinks in a bottle. That could be what your company's selling. You don't have to change anything about that. If you just make people, put your own people at the top of your strategic priorities, you're going to start to be making a better world, because you're going to be changing the lives of those individual people with all the time they spend at work. And that's going to have gigantic ripple effects. And guess what? When you engage people in the right way and empower them to create the engagement that they need at work, they're going to start changing your products for the better. They're going to start shifting your policies and your mission for the better. If you give engaged people more control of your company, they're going to start making the company better as well. Engaged people creates a better world. That's why I'm here talking about this, and why I'm passionate about this, and why we're going to go through this. That's why maybe we're all here. So let's talk about how we can really do this. Because only 37% of executives strongly agree, even knowing all this, that engagement is a significant organizational focus. Why? This gets us toward the title of this session, cracking the engagement puzzle. This is the puzzle. We know it's more profitable. Many leaders even know it makes people's lives better and makes a better world. Yet only 37% of executives say that it's a strong organizational focus. Why? This is a mystery. We've had engagement statistics for 10 years and they haven't improved really in like the UK and the US, for example. Why? Well, because we know, because the more we know about how engagement works, it turns out it's the complete opposite of how normal business works. You cannot pay someone into engagement. We know this from the science, that after a certain level of salary, that lets someone live, like basically get their basic needs met and be generally comfortable in their physical living expenses, a certain salary beyond that doesn't increase any happiness. We also know that if someone has a creative job or even or any type of white collar job, and you incentivize people only with money, their performance drops. We know this from the science. So you cannot pay people into engagement. You also cannot logic someone into engagement. When I tell leaders this, sometimes their minds are blown. You cannot, companies, they'll be like, no, but we have engagement programs. We have surveys. We have ping pong tables. We give you food. We have like work from home days. You're supposed to be engaged. You should be engaged. You cannot logic someone into engagement. It's not just, hey, we have this, we say this equals engagement. It doesn't work like that. Engagement, is your joy, is your excitement a logic puzzle? Like the things that make you just joyful in your life, do you have to logically rationalize them? Like if one person gets really joyous about, board games, and another person is really joyous about going for a run, is there like, do they have to have logic behind that for that to make sense? No, it's just their joy. It's emotion. It's by definition not logical. Your excitement, your emotion, your love for your work, your connection to your team members, your sense of purpose, none of that is logical. Engagement is a personal, emotional process. Engagement is entirely emotional. And almost no leaders are trained on the personal, emotional process. This is why engagement numbers haven't moved. This is why we are where we are right now after 10 years of engagement stats and they haven't moved. This is why leaders are struggling and some of them have given up. And this is why only 37% of leaders feel like engagement is a strong focus, because they don't know what to do, because the things aren't working that they thought they were doing. So this is where, mystery solved. By the way, mystery solved. This is where cracking the engagement puzzle comes in. What we're doing with this program is we're teaching leaders how do you actually cut through and meet someone where their emotional engagement is, their real motivation is, the energy coming up inside them that is their motivation and engagement, their joy for their work. How do you activate that? That's a personal emotional process. Now you might realize why we did the sound ball in the beginning of the workshop with your group is because I wanted you to have an emotional experience right off the bat. Because when you have an emotional experience, your entire state changes. Your entire sense of what this workshop is changes. Your willingness to be engaged in this workshop or not changes. Those of you who maybe arrived late or didn't participate in that because your video, wasn't on, you didn't jump in. You're having a different experience of this right now than the people who connected with, just a couple other people with the sound ball in the beginning of the workshop. That's why I did that. Wanted to give you a taste of that emotional experience. And before we end here, hopefully we will have time for more of that. So you can get a lived sense of this. So you can start using it with your teams. Okay. So that's what we're doing with this program. And what we're answering in this program is my number one leadership question. How can I change a person's emotional experience? That's at the core of all work decisions, all work behavior, what people say at work, what people do at work, the attitude they have at work. It's coming from their emotional experience. Their engagement is coming from their emotional experience. So the science, 50 years of social science bears this out. Humans are driven by emotion, and it's a huge mistake to think anything otherwise. The science is uncompromising in this conclusion. So if you look at any science into how people make decisions, you see this immediately. You see this very clearly. So this becomes the number one leadership question. Any leader I coach, any leader I work with, this is one of the main things I'm helping them with because almost nobody is trained in this. Almost nobody knows how to do this. So how do we do this? If you just start asking yourself this question, you will start to find answers. But this is a question you can apply to yourself as well. So I really want this to be the one of the number one takeaways you have from this session is this question. Asking yourself this question for yourself, asking yourself this question for the people around you. If you want to make your day better, if you want to make your work better, if you want to make your life better, if you want to help the people around you do the same, this is the question. This is one of the most important questions you can ask. How can I change my emotional experience? How can I help change someone else's emotional experience? Now, you're not responsible for someone else's emotions. You can't control their emotional experience, but you can do so much to influence it. You can do so much to create a different experience for someone else based on how you're showing up, based on what you're doing. And there are certain levers you can pull to shift someone's emotional experience. And that's what I'm going to show you next. The last 50 years of social science and ancient wisdom, ancient systems of how people can be happy and healthy in their life, things like yoga, other systems, they all give us clues into the emotional levers we can pull. And if you combine all that research and these ideas, for me, you get these 7 human needs at work. These are your emotional levers that you want to use to change your own and someone else's emotional experience. This is at the core of cracking the engagement puzzle. We go in depth in each one of these in the program. And I'm going to give you an overview right now of these 7 levers that every leader needs to learn how to pull. They are safety. Many of you have come across the term psychological safety. That's included in this. Trust and psychological safety are the 2 main components of someone having emotional experience of safety at work. We need to learn how to create trust and psychological safety much better than we're doing now. There's some key indicators you can look at on a team to know if a team is psychologically safe or not. One of them has to do with equal talking time. One of them has to do with how emotions are used on a team and if emotions are supported on a team. There's a whole formula for trust as well. These are things we can learn, and these are the things we go through in this program. We're obviously not going to be able to go through all this content today. This is a taster. We're going to pick one of these to go through. But safety is one of your biggest emotional levers, and the first thing you need to make sure of that a team is the emotional experience people are having on your team. Many of you know that psychological safety was the number one factor that Google discovered created their high-performing teams. So out of all the possible factors it could have been, they did a massive study. It was called Project Aristotle. You can look that up. Safety is extremely important. The next one is play. Many companies completely overlook this. Human beings are designed for play. It's in our wiring. It's in the wiring of every single mammal. It's in our genes. If we don't play, we don't feel complete. We don't feel connected to the people around us, and we don't feel fully engaged and like we're having an okay emotional experience. If we can't play, we don't feel okay. This has been well studied in children, and I go into this more in the full session. But play, look what that looks like at work. It doesn't have to be. It can just be kind of totally unstructured, free social time with your colleagues, but it also can be structured. It can be creative projects, collaborative social creative projects. It can be you working with people you don't normally work with at the company on something you don't normally work with. You know, some type of a project you don't normally work with. It can be something like hackathons. There are lots of ways to make play creative and constructive. In fact, many of the products at Google, for example, were created by people just making stuff up in their free time. And those turned into some really powerful products. So you can use play to your company's advantage. But if you're not using it, people are not having the full emotional experience for engagement. The next one is power. Power is basically autonomy and mastery. You may have heard those terms before. Autonomy is essentially freedom in your work. Mastery means you know your strengths, you're able to work on those strengths, and you see your strengths progressing, kind of like a video game. That's the environment we want to create at work. The next one is belonging. In a study that Indeed.com did, Indeed.com is a giant job search website. They teamed up with Harvard, and they had a question on the website that 14 million people filled out. And the question was, what's the number one thing you most want from work? And what came out of that, all those answers, was that the number one thing people wanted was belonging. So belonging means people feel like they are truly valued and wanted at their place of work and on their team. They are seen for their unique skills and contribution, and that is highly valued and appreciated. And belonging, we're going to talk more about later today. The next one is self-expression. This means you are speaking your values and speaking your truth at work. Your values are known. You know your main values. You're able to use them every day, and you're able to speak express yourself and who you really are at work. This is like your personality and the truth of who you are that gets expressed at work. There's some classic case studies of companies allowing their employees to really go to some extremes in expressing their own personalities at work, and it did massively beneficial things for those companies. So we talk about that in the full session. Inspiration to me is two components that are absent from a lot of workplaces. That is, people being able to have a vision for themselves and be using that vision for themselves in their daily work. So if your leaders if you're not asking the people on your team, hey, what's your vision for yourself? Let's create an exciting vision for you and connecting work to that. We're missing out on some of the engagement. And the second component of inspiration is intuition. Completely absent from so many work conversations, but humans are intuitive beings. We get gut feelings. We get intuitive information in our hearts about what's really right for us and what we really want. And that's almost never discussed at work and almost ignored at work. But if you talk to people outside normal structured corporate environments, artists, creative people, many entrepreneurs, that guidance system inside them has created some of their absolute best work and is what makes them fulfilled. We need to include that in the conversation for anyone who's in a job anywhere, even in structured workplace environments. So inspiration is vision and intuition. And then the final one is purpose. That's that you just feel your work is really meaningful in the world. You know what that is. Okay. So, wow, the mirror into more traditional chakra meanings, colors is strong. Oh, somebody found the connection to found a deeper connection to yoga that we're doing here. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's not a coincidence. It's because when I was doing the research for years into the things that were required for human engagement and motivation, I saw that there was an overlap. There were these seven things that all of the sources basically agreed upon when you put them all together. And those seven things were almost exactly the seven quote unquote chakra system in yoga. And whether you believe in chakras or not, it doesn't matter. The point is that yoga has these seven sort of human needs that it describes that we need to kind of be filled up in these areas to feel happy and live a fulfilled life. And when you see the research and the ancient wisdom come together and agree, that to me just gives me goosebumps. That to me is like, oh my God, yes, this is what we need. This is what we've been trying to tell ourselves for so long. Let's implement this at work. So that for me adds credibility to this, to even the science behind this. So thank you for noticing that. Maybe many of you noticed that. If you're not into yoga, it doesn't matter. You can still use these levers to great effect. So let's assess ourselves on the 7 human needs at work. We're going to go through this very quickly. All you just need is a piece of paper. Man, we're pushing up against time. Okay. So all you need is a piece of paper. We're going to do this very quickly. You're going to give yourself a set of ratings for each of these 10, for each of these seven needs. And you're going to give yourself a rating 1 out of 10. Okay. So just get a piece of paper ready and a pen. You're going to give yourself these ratings. These ratings are going to be very instinctual. So you're going to move very fast. You're not going to think about it. You're just going to give your first answer. Okay, here we go. So, need 1, safety. On a scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you feel sharing your challenges, anxieties, stresses, mistakes, problems, and real emotions at work? 1 is you're not safe, you do not feel safe. 10 is the absolute most, you absolutely feel safe. How safe do you feel personally? 1 out of 10. Just write down the first number that comes to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you believe your team? How safe do you believe your team feels in sharing their challenges, anxieties, stresses, mistakes, problems, and real emotions at work? So you're rating your assessment of your team right now. First number that comes to you. Next one, play. On a scale of 1 to 10, how creative and playful do you feel at work? Just the first number that comes to you. This is your self-assessment. You're just checking in where you are with these 7 needs. And for your team, how creative and playful do you believe your team feels at work? First number. On a scale of 1 to 10, how powerful do you feel in your work role? In your particular role, how powerful do you feel? Scale of 1 to 10, 10 is the most in all of these. On a scale of 1 to 10, how powerful do you believe your team feels at work? Just give that a number. Now, the few people I can see writing down numbers, I'm using you for my timing for this, so I appreciate you that you're doing this. Okay, got your number. Next one, belonging. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel you really belong in your team and organization? That you're valued for your specific gifts by your team and your organization? Scale of 1 to 10. First number you have. 10 is the most. Same thing with your team. How much do you believe your team members feel that they truly belong? Just to give a general rating, your sense of your team, that they're valued for their specific gifts. This is, what I'm giving you here is a map that you can leave this session with, that you can look at these and figure out where you want to give some attention. What needs extra attention for you? Now, I know we said, I think this is planned for 45 minutes, so already only 4 minutes away. So hopefully some of you can stay longer. We're going to finish this map by 45, but hopefully some of you can stay longer because we're going to dive into some of the content of the belonging section, and you can get some specific tips on that one in the belonging section if you want. And then we're going to, of course, talk to you about what you can do next. If you do have to leave, maybe D, you can type in the chat the email address that I'll just take the moment now to say, D can maybe put in the chat the email address if you want to have a bigger conversation about this with us at Think Productive. You can just send an email to that email address, and we can start this conversation and get more information about this whole system and this program, and we can talk about that with you and see if it might be useful for you or your team or something in your organization. So there's a link there for the details, and also there's an email we would love for you to send, and we'll show that, and there it is too in the chat. So you can send that email. Okay, there's your rating for belonging. Now, self-expression. On a scale of 1 to 10, how fully can you express your personal values, joy, and personality? What's really important to you at work? On a scale of 1 to 10, How fully can you express that at work? Give yourself your first number that comes to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how fully do you believe your team feels they can express their personality and joys and what's really important to them at work? First number. Inspiration. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you put your own intuition and vision into action at work? Your first number, scale of 1 to 10. 10 is the most. And if you're someone who doesn't really even think about your own intuition or vision, well, that's okay. That's just an area you haven't tapped. And that's actually a huge place for you where you can find some real joy. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does your team put their collective intuition and vision into action at work? So this is more like how much do you work as a team to create a vision and activate that at work on a scale of 1 to 10? So you're getting numbers for yourself, obviously, and you're getting numbers for your team. You can figure out how you want to use this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much, this is purpose now, how much do you feel your work is truly meaningful in the world? Just your first number, scale of 1 to 10. And for your team, how much do you believe your team feels that their work is truly meaningful in the world? Scale of 1 to 10. Okay. So now you have your map. And how do you use your scores? I'm going to take a poll in a minute. We're going to see where this room is in this. But here's how you might use your scores. First of all, notice which need of yours is most fulfilled for yourself and your team. You notice your highest number. Yeah. Notice which need is least fulfilled for you and your team. So notice your lowest number. Circle that one. Mark that out. Highlight that one. Yeah. And then what you want to think about is which need might cause the biggest positive difference for you or your team. This is how you might want to use these scores moving forward after this session. Which need might cause the biggest positive difference for you and your team? It might be your least fulfilled need. It might not for some other reason. So this is for you to self-reflect on this question. And then finally, which need are you most energized to work on? Which need, the way I described it, just excites you? Which need just gets you humming? Which need just gets you activated? That's an important thing for you to think about when you want to work on these needs, because your energy that you bring to these needs, that's going to shift the emotional experience of yourself and the people around you. So D, we're coming to the end of our original 45 minutes here. I'll just do the quick poll. Let's see what the room felt. And then we can tell you how to get in touch with us, maybe. And then for those of you who can stay, if you want, I can answer some questions and I can go through a sample of the belonging section in the actual workshop, cracking the engagement puzzle, the full workshop. I can give you a sample of some of the content if you want to stick around for that, because I have until the start of the next hour. So let's do the poll. Let's take the poll. I'm going to see if I can stop the share. Do the poll, which I should have power to do here. Poll quizzes. So I'm going to ask you about yourself. Here's the poll. I'm launching it. Which of these human needs do you need to work on the most for yourself? Do you believe? You can answer this however you want. Here's the 7 needs. Let's just give an answer. I got 2 of 67 current participants in here. I got 26 answers. Thank you so much. I got 36 answers. I got 45 answers of 66 participants. I got 50 answers. So while you're answering, I'm just going to tell you that this is where I believe leadership needs to go. These human needs, the emotional experience, this is where the next phase of leadership needs to go to really make the change in work environments and businesses that we've all been wondering, like, where is the change? Someone just posted in our Think Productive our Think Productive like internal chat, they posted a Reddit conversation where someone posted on Reddit like, hey, I'm totally burned out at work. It seems like people who were happy last year are not happy this year. Is anyone noticing that? There was like 300 comments of people talking about how everything about their workplace seems to be getting harder. They're asking to be doing more with less. It just seems to be getting, their cost of living is rising. Their wage hasn't risen. So if we want to focus on that, it can seem like it's a big, big challenge and it looks pretty dire. But at the root of all those people's experiences are their emotional experience. Their emotional experience is actually what they're describing. All of those other things are surface level and will change when we start to change the emotional experience. When you change the emotional experience, the natural outcome is that the actions and decisions change. So let's end the poll and see the results of the poll, share results. So this is where we're at. The biggest one is play. Interesting. Yeah. Belonging is pretty low. Belonging was the lowest answer, actually. That's surprising. Usually not the case. Inspiration and purpose are usually two of the top, and inspiration and purpose is kind of mid-range on this one. So I really appreciate all your shares on this. So, but you can, one important thing to note here is how individual engagement really is, because we had 55 people answer this poll, and we have a spread. Every single one of these 7 things got touched. So if you're trying to make engagement on your team and you're not speaking to each individual about these needs, if you're not looking at your own individual needs, if you're not having a conversation about these 7 things with people and figuring out which one is really most important to them, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. And this is one of the things that has made it so hard for leaders. This is one of the things that a lot of leaders have given up. And it's not a one-size-fits-all deal, but these are your biggest levers to find what's going to move yourself and each person on your team. So I'm going to stop sharing that. What questions do people have? Let's just, went a little bit off script because I took more time than maybe I could have. But what question do people have questions now, or do we want to jump into the content and get a sample of the belonging section of this course? There was a couple hands I saw raised. There were probably a couple questions in the chat that I didn't address. Does anybody have anything that they want to share? I see a thumbs up. Does that mean you have a question, Diane? Or Marie says, jump into the content. I'm not sure job security was mentioned, but that's a key part of safety. Yeah, absolutely. If you're working with a leader who just isn't engaged, how to shift upwards? Yeah, that's an interesting question. There are many ways to do it. One of them is start talking to them about these 7 things. Get them to do a self-rating on these 7 things. You can find out which one of these is really important to them, and maybe you can help them meet that thing. Also, you need to be the model for this. Emotions are contagious. Negative emotions are contagious and positive emotions are contagious. If you hold these emotions for your own work, for your own team, in your own self, if you model this, it'll start to contage upward. You can start to contage upward. So jump into content. Thank you, David. Sorry I have to jump off now. No problem, Daniel, if you want to know more. By the way, we do have a giveaway at the end. So if you do stay to the very end, there's a little prize. If you can stay to the top of the hour, it's a secret little happy surprise for anybody who's going to stay till then. So thank you for all of you who are here so far. Among my colleagues, I get a sense of fear. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest blocks to safety. A lot of people are afraid at work. A lot of people are really anxious at work. So let's jump into the content for belonging, and I'll show you what that's like. In fact, one of the exercises in the course is an exercise to directly address people's anxieties and fears at work. And recently we did a live version of this and like in-person version of this at a conference, and we did that exercise and people shared that the experience was very powerful. And so there's some very simple things you can do to change people's emotional experience. So let's look at belonging, and I'll show you some simple things. The full recording will be emailed. Thank you, Dee. So if you need to leave, so let's jump back in to the presentation. All right, so belonging. Let's look at belonging. Why it's blocked in organizations. Judgment. You might be familiar with that in the form of performance reviews. A lot of people don't realize how judgmental performance reviews seem: isolation, people working in silos; thanklessness. There's a lot of just thanklessness in work environments, and feeling unvalued. A lot of people feel totally unvalued for what they're contributing and their unique skills. So these are the main blocks to belonging. You want to eliminate these as quickly as possible, but there's some specific things you can do to increase belonging. How to unblock it. See, name, and embrace the unique skills and contributions of each person. So if you're a leader on a team, you need to know this first. You need to name people's unique skills and embrace them, make them part of meetings, make them part of work decisions, make them part of how you distribute work. You have to let people's unique skills be an asset for them in their workplace. It can't just be like, oh, hey, you're great at giving presentations. No, okay, well then let's use that skill. Let's use that skill as much as we can. How are we going to leverage that skill? So seeing the skills and naming the skills and embracing the skills for yourself and each person on the team helps someone feel really seen, and also helps them be more productive and more engaged and work on their strengths, so that everyone feels wanted, needed, trusted, welcomed, accepted, and valued by their leader and team. This is what we're trying to get to. This is what belonging feels like. Now, there's actually a formula for this, that if you do 3 things, you give yourself your absolute best chance of creating belonging, an emotional experience of belonging. Those 3 things are gratitude plus social support plus appreciation. So let's just look at what each one of these is, because gratitude and appreciation are not the same thing. So first, we know from lots of research, most of which is outlined in the Happiness Advantage, that being grateful about the past and present is doing exercises where you actually write down or share with someone else what you're grateful for in the past or present increases happiness at work. It's one of the specific things, I should say, that science has identified that has an immediate bump in happiness at work. So do you have some type of gratitude practice, some type of gratitude ritual for yourself or for your team? Each morning, each night, or maybe once a week in a team meeting. Hey, what are we grateful for on the team this week? Or maybe when a big project ends, hey, what are we grateful for in that project? Maybe you don't want to use the term grateful. Maybe that sounds too kind of soft for you, but like, what was good? What was good that happened in that project? This having a gratitude practice creates an immediate boost in happiness and creates the emotional experience of engagement. We know this from the science. It's so simple, hardly anyone's using it. Social support is the other thing that they discovered in Happiness Advantage, creates an immediate bump in someone's emotional experience of engagement. This is the second factor in our formula. Social support is helping others when you need it, and they're helping you when you need it. So do you have a mechanism on your team for when someone's struggling, they actually get to work with someone else that they might not normally work with? Do you pair people up on projects, or is everybody working on their own project? Now, these are the kind of questions you can start to ask yourself that we work you through in the full workshop, where you figure this out for your team and how you can make these adjustments. But maybe you have ideas already and you can take this away with you, or if you watch the recording later. Appreciation is genuine, unique praise for the contribution of someone else. It's specific to a person, and it notices something unique about them. It values the individual and celebrates the individual. Now, most of you, maybe some of you know about this feedback rule, and this is going to be the last thing I share because we're out of time. But the feedback rule is that one piece of negative feedback hits someone just as hard as 3 pieces of positive feedback. So if you just want to have balanced feedback, you got to do 3 positive to every 1 negative. If you want to have someone believe that you really see them in a positive light and believe in them, you got to have like 4 or 5 pieces of positive feedback, basically 4 or 5 appreciations for every negative feedback. So are you getting there? That's part of creating belonging. That's part of that you need to get there as a leader. And you can use your team to do that. And we have exercises in this that show you how to do that for yourself and your team, so that you can hit that ratio and where everybody feels like they are really fully appreciated, which is a huge factor for engagement at work. So that's just, I'm going to stop the share. That's just a sample of how we go through each of these 7 things in the workshop. We figure out what blocks it, we figure out how to unblock it, and I give you specific exercises and tools you can use to unblock each of these 7 things. So where are we at with the chat? People need to drop, people saying thank you. You have the recording. We have 2 minutes left. So why don't we, just in 2 minutes, Dee can share, I'll share the PowerPoint again and we can show you the giveaway. Oh, by the way, this is just a little picture of the full workshop. Contact us if you're interested in this full workshop. I would love to share everything in this workshop with you. I'm so passionate about this. This is creating the future of work. Please email us here if you want to have a conversation. I would so love to have that with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested in this. Now, anybody who's still here, Dee, do you want to share the giveaway with them? Because you get a chance to win a free ticket. Oh, and we're going to be stopping the recording now. By the way, for those of you watching the recording, we're going to give the free giveaway to anyone still here live. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time.